case of the Iranian colonization, we have Soleimani, General Soleimani, that is really now the face of Iran hegemonic power in the Middle East years. And in case of American colonial colleagues, we have two strong personality that one among is Ambassador Khalilzad. Most of us have worked with him, interacted with him, and he does not behave as a normal diplomat or even a normal representative of a foreign country. He has a larger than personality years, and also what he did in 2001 and prior to 2001, he has put his remark on the history of Afghanistan and history of the United States in Afghanistan. What do you think of Khalilzad? That if, for example, and he's not here, so he's afraid to speak that if there was someone else, the fate put someone else in the place of Khalilzad, will we be in a different place? So what is your assessment? You have met with Khalilzad, as many of us here. What do you think of Khalilzad?
So that's a very hard and not very fair question. I think you should ask this question to some of the people from Ambassador Khalilzad's generation, who probably know him for longer and deeper. My interactions have been very limited, but I can talk a little bit about perceptions about him. I think first thing is that no one should really envy his job. He's dealing with President Trump, President Ghani, and Taliban. I don't wish this upon anyone. it's a very complicated situation that he is in. But in terms of perceptions, I think every peace process, because of his unique role, of course, he requires to do a lot of trust building. Every peace process requires trust building, but particularly him and Ambassador Khalilzad and the role that he's in, it requires a lot of trust building, and I feel like there are serious deficiencies when it comes to his work of trust building within certain segments of the society. It seems to me, my perception is that he still hasn't caught up or doesn't fully admit the new realities of Afghanistan. And this I find concerning, because I see that he mostly engaged with people that he engaged with during the Bonn process, and look what came out of that. But he seems to be, he does engage, for instance, he has met women's groups, youth groups. I'm not sure if he has met victims' families yet. I'm not sure, maybe he has, but he doesn't seem to associate power with these groups. And since he sees the process as a sort of power sharing, rather than, I think, this signifies to me that he sees it as a form of trying to come up with a formula for power sharing, rather than actually creating a foundation for peace. Because when you're thinking about power sharing, you only think about political elite and the existing power structure. But you're not imaginative about what the future could look like, but also you have little imagination about actually building peace requires engagement of different segments and building the trust of different segments. So there's a lot of, I don't know how our political elite think of him. It seems like they all have some degree of trust in him, but as young people, as women's groups, as civil society, there's a huge degree of anxiety about his mission and his role, and I don't feel like he's doing enough to overcome that anxiety. And that's one part that I think needs more work. The other aspect that is concerning for us is that one thing that when we interacted with him, when I personally interacted with him, I put across was that we hope, because we are not engaging with the Taliban in the same way that the US is doing right now, our government is not, and our civil society is not, that we hope he uses it not only as an opportunity to iron out these issues between US and Taliban, but also to reflect on the realities of the new Afghanistan, and to kind of help Taliban get a test of this, or at least acknowledge in some part the realities of the new Afghanistan. And I'm not sure if he's fully convinced about how much Afghanistan has transformed socially and culturally, because if he's not, then he won't be able to communicate that.
Thank you. Thank you. My second question is to Dr. Sewell Azimi.
I thought you'd be asking me the same question.
You can ask, but I have a specific question. Is that we were in Beijing together for a conference a few weeks ago, and we were discussing of comparing the peace process with the kind of arranged marriage or forced marriage that the parents do. And one is that in a forced marriage or arranged marriage, the parents, they don't ask the bride or the groom that what really they think that they want it. And one party in this marriage, forced marriage, or is the Taliban. Really, it seems to me that peace is being imposed upon them. Yeah, because you recently wrote a very briefly substantive paper on the Taliban and the relationship in the drug money, and also you have worked a lot, both in your role as a journalist and also as a scholar on the Taliban. What do you think the Taliban think of the peace process? Are they ready to enter a political life distancing from the war life? Because if you study their websites, there's anything else. It's only about war, conflict, how many Americans they killed, how many Afghan soldiers. There's hardly anything that one can find out what is their vision for economy, for governments, for constitutional peers. And what is your assessment of Taliban readiness or capacity or potential to engage in a political life and away from a conflict life?
Well, Ms. Kufi just met them a few weeks ago. I'm in a better position to answer this question.
But come back to her. But,
Yeah.
but you have studied them.
Yeah. So I think their main focus has been on the foreign forces, on what they call the occupation. They haven't thought enough about the second phase of the problem in Afghanistan, which is the new political realities and social realities. And I don't think they have a roadmap for that phase. They have a roadmap for the first phase, which is their main demand of the withdrawal or timetable for the withdrawal. So this is what I think. And this was, I think, somehow unexpected even for the Taliban, that the US would change so quickly and there will be that much dramatic change that Trump will just insist on the withdrawal. But I don't think they have thought enough about the constitutional amendments, about the political system of Afghanistan in the future. And it is the same in Afghanistan as well. I mean, for most Afghans, this was again unexpected, that Trump's announcement of plan to withdraw. So it was kind of shocking for Afghans in general, whether Taliban or non-Taliban. When it comes to the second phase, nobody knows. How would Afghanistan of the future look like? We don't know about the political system, we don't know about the constitution, we don't know about the society, the freedoms, the media, and the rest of it, because it hasn't been discussed. So this is what is hoped from the intra-Afghan dialogue, that they will be discussing these issues. So it's the same in the non-Taliban side as well. There hasn't been enough preparation. There are thoughts, there are views, but they are not on the same page. Peace means a different thing to different parts of the Afghan society. For somebody sitting in the Helmand, peace means one thing. But for somebody living in Kabul, peace is another thing. So that's why there is a need for an intra-Afghan dialogue. And on Khalilzad, Khalilzad was asked by President Trump to bring back our forces. So this is his task. He was ordered by his boss to go and find a way for ending this war. And this is what he's doing. The main part which you talked about and Ms. Akbar talked about, the political system, the society and freedom, this is up to the Afghans. So Americans are not in Afghanistan to fight for human rights. They are there to fight against terrorism. They were attacked, they came to take revenge and punish those groups that were responsible for those attacks. They didn't come to Afghanistan to prevent human rights abuses or to protect human rights or freedoms of the press or expression. So this is something that the Afghans should understand. And it is up to the inter-Afghan dialogue to come up with solutions. So I think it doesn't matter whether it is Richard Holbrooke or John Bolton or Mr. Khalilzad. It could have been John Bolton. So do you think he'll be more diplomatic than Mr. Khalilzad? Or do you think Richard Holbrooke would have been more diplomatic than Mr. Khalilzad? I mean, you had worked with Mr. Holbrooke when he was alive. So, I mean, you have written about that, the approach that he had. So Khalilzad's mission is to end this war and find a way to bring forces home. And the Afghans' task is to sit and talk among themselves and find a way for the future.
And my question to Khanum Safi is that, as Magma states, that today was the inaugural and the first Afghanistan Sussex Forum. And inshallah, we will have the second forum in March. Hopefully, by then, the Foreign Office would cooperate with giving more visa to Afghan researchers. So we wouldn't complain about visa issue next year, inshallah. So, Imam, inshallah, we will invite you to the second forum, since I don't need visas. So let's imagine that we are in 2020 and we will have again a panel on peace forces and political settlement. What issue will we be discussing next year? I know as a social scientist, we are not here to predict the future, but we can have a speculation on 2020. What issue we will be discussing?
It sounds you're entering your successor.
I want to take the page that Dr. Said has on outcomes and scenarios because I think he has them highlighted. In my perspective, in 2020, from my discussions, the two ways that we could possibly go. The first possibility could be that we will have what was also mentioned earlier by Dr. Santha as well, a form of negative peace that will eventually come about. The Americans do want to withdraw. That is our reality. It will happen. The intra-Afghan dialogues will take place. What they produce or do not produce, I can't say at this point in time, but ultimately generalize it as a form of negative peace coming in. When this form of negative peace does come into Afghanistan, I think that there will be significant changes in our constitution. I think our state institutions will relatively remain the same, with some changes in the Afghan National Security Forces, perhaps, because there's so much that I hear, and it's hard to discern right now what is truth and what is reality and what is fiction. So it's hard to say. So please excuse my forecast, but there will be significant changes in the Constitution. There will be significant reversals in certain freedoms that we are enjoying as it is right now in the context of Afghanistan. If by some chance we have something that measures between something of a positive piece and something of a negative piece, which I think is the best scenario that we can, considering our context and our condition and the shortcomings that Afghanistan is facing, with or without a peace process, with or without the Taliban. That would be one in which we would maintain our state existing institutions. We would maintain our constitution with revisions, but not those revisions that would fundamentally alter the lives of certain segments of society. And at that point, our discussions will be on how do we make Afghanistan self-reliant, because that is the first priority of the country, to be able to stand on its own 2 feet. And it's got several projects that it has on its way that have been hampered a lot by insecurity. Whether that is issues like China's Belt and Road Initiative, the Five Nation Railways Project, the economic corridors, and TAPI, and CASA, and TAP, and there's so many of these abbreviations. But there are fundamentally, both on paper and to an extent on the ground, movement when it has come to developing Afghanistan's economy. So focusing on that, so we can provide jobs for our people, but also to provide jobs for those reintegrees. Reintegrees will need one thing more than anything else, and that's jobs, long-term jobs, which we were not able to give them in previous APRP and all of those other programs that were there. To provide them with long-term jobs and to continue growing the economy, providing employment for our society. If this moves forward, we won't be able to achieve self-reliance by 2024. I don't see that possible, even if everything goes well, but by about 2030 or so, we will be slowly heading to that space and slowly putting ourselves back together. So I think that those are the two. So if we have negative peace, I'm going to be sitting here and I would probably be sitting here, or I probably have to work from outside of Afghanistan because my organization would be shut, because I work for strengthening the pillars of democracy, and I'm a woman. So probably I won't be able to operate, and so you'll call me from Canada, and then I'll come and sit and talk here. But if it's the other round, it'll be better. But I just want to add one thing,
Please.
Dr. Asad. With regards to Khalilzad, I also have not met him much. I've met him just twice, and I have to agree a little bit with Dr. Saif in terms of he has one agenda. Whether you replace the man with anyone else, that agenda maintains. I do agree that to an extent that is correct, but one of the things that is missing in the literature on peace building is the ability or the definition of co-option and the social contract that is developed by international actors and local actors. Now, for example, with Khalilzad coming into the picture, he's going to be doing a lot of co-option in these initial phases with the insurgency and other groups that he's talking with, the tribal elders, power brokers, etc. We've seen the international community in Afghanistan, whether it is at the very local level where they're teaching tribal elders how to not resolve criminal issues in the jirgas. You know, you can only resolve these, don't resolve, those are against this and this and this. Or at the top level, where you see the social contract that was developed between President Karzai and Bush, and how that went relatively less stressed than his relationship with Obama, for instance. Now, Khalilzad will also have to develop that social contract. When that social contract is developed, Khalilzad has something very unique. He's Afghan. He is pursuing a strict US agenda, but he's Afghan. And he's using that Afghan element very well in his co-option and his social contract development. When he's developing that social contract, he's going to make concessions. I've seen the international community make concessions, like they will give local actors a certain amount of concessions in the first phase, with the idea that later on I will get what I want. But as Dr. Sespanta in his earlier message pointed out, that we don't have Democrats to maintain our democracy. Similarly, in Afghanistan, we saw liberal democracy being pursued illiberally. The mobilization of warring parties, paying the Taliban literally to safeguard certain areas so they can transit goods, and so many more examples. So I think that the identity of the individual does matter.
Thank you.